Hello and welcome to Wagner's Tech Talk. John here, and today we're going to take a look at the Powkiddy X18S. The X18S is the most powerful handheld I've used for retro gaming, however it certainly wasn't the easiest to set up. In this video, I'll show you a few tips, and of course, we'll check out some gameplay. Let's get started. Let's take a look at the features of the Powkiddy X18S. The CPU is a T618 8-core 64-bit with a dual-core ARM A-Cortex A75 and a 6-core ARM A-Cortex A55 up to 2 GHz. The GPU is a Mali G52. The OS is running Android 11. The LCD panel is 5.5 inches at 1280 by 720, and it is a touchscreen. It has a 5000 mAh battery, 4 GB of RAM, 64 GB of read-only memory, a microSD slot which supports up to a 512 GB card, though no card is included. The Wi-Fi supports both 2.4 and 5 GHz, Bluetooth 5.0, and a mini HDMI output to connect up to your TV or monitor. This device experienced a number of delays. It was slated to be released early in 2021, but wasn't released until much later. The reason why I ordered this unit is that it's quite powerful compared to prior generations of handhelds. However, we'll soon see there is no pre-configured emulators or decent applications installed to help you get started. You have to know or learn what to install, how to set it up, and get the most out of this device. So let's go ahead and take a look and see what's inside this box. As I open the manual, this QC card popped out, so yep, there it is. Now let's get back to the manual. And it's not very well written, and there's not a whole lot of information here to get you started. In an effort to make the setup process easier for you, I created a guide at wagnerstechtalk.com/X18S. This guide will have the most recent known information about the X18S, and some portions shown in this video may have changed over time. You may want to open the guide and follow along some portions that you see here. Moving back to the unboxing, there is one cable that is included, and it's a USB Type-A to USB Type-C cable. I think this is the first clamshell device I bought in quite a while. The L1 and R1 and R2 and L2 buttons do feel pretty good. The R2 and L2 are a little bit more clicky. This is what the back label looks like, and on the front you have your headphone jack and 2 stereo speakers, which sound actually very good. And here's a side view of the device. And let's go ahead and open it up. And the first thing I noticed was this rather ugly Powkiddy label. Aside from that, the sticks seem a little sensitive to me, and there is no L3 or R3 buttons. That is, the sticks don't depress. The D-pad I don't particularly care for. It stuck a little bit when I first started using it, but did get slightly better. Now let's take a brief look at the button arrangement. You have your volume up and down, your on-screen button mapping, your power button, app switcher, the home button, your back button, and of course your select and start buttons. In terms of the A, B, X, Y action buttons, they are functional, but they don't really have a quality look to them, nor a quality feel. On the back, we have a microSD slot, mini HDMI, and USB-C for charging and OTG. There are 3 screen display positions, closed, roughly 105 degrees. And if we extend it to the next stopping position, it's roughly 140 degrees. Now we'll go ahead and quickly power on the unit and take a quick look. And it did just vibrate on power on. Some of the applications that you have pre-installed are in Chinese and are of little use to us, so I'm going to be removing them shortly. You'll want to double check, but the firmware that was pre-installed with my unit did not include the Google Play Store, but we'll fix that in the next segment. As mentioned previously, you'll want to visit the X18S guide for the latest information, as the firmware update process may have changed since this video was created. If we scroll down to the table of contents, we can see the firmware update section, so we'll click that. And then here's a link to the firmware update itself. So we're going to the Powkiddy's website, and they have a Google Drive here where you can download the image that we're going to flash to our X18S. We'll now click the update, right click, and then scroll down a little ways until you see Download. Locate your micro SD card that you're going to be using with your Powkiddy X18S and go ahead and put it into the sleeve or USB card reader. Insert it into your PC. The file itself is 1.43 gigabytes. I'm going to copy the file to the clipboard, go over to the root of the SD card, which is formatted in exFAT, and simply copy it to the root of the micro SD card. Now we can go ahead and remove the micro SD card from the PC and go ahead and pop it into the X18S. On the X18S, we'll navigate over to the Settings option and then scroll to the very far right until we see Advanced. Go ahead and tap that. And then we want to scroll all the way to the bottom and we'll see an option here, About Game Device. Yes, that's spelled incorrectly, but we'll select the Local Software Update option. So just tap that and just go ahead and tap OK at this point. Choose the SD card update. So we'll tap OK. And the package is ready to be installed. We'll just hit OK again. And at this point, it'll take a little while for the process to complete, so just be patient. Once it's done, tap OK. The device will restart, and you will see erasing show up briefly on the screen, and you'll be greeted with this friendly Hi There screen. Select your language and tap Start, and where it says Connect to a mobile network, we don't have one, so we'll hit Skip. And next it's going to ask to connect to our Wi-Fi network. Fortunately, we see both 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz network, so I'm going to select Lucas, which is mine. Enter the passphrase, and it'll go ahead and connect. And from there, you'll have another brief delay, and then say Next at this point on Copy Data. And then we're going to tell it not to copy anything from any prior Android device, so select Don't Copy. It's now going to ask for our Google account. At this point, use either two-factor authentication or a secondary account if you prefer. Totally up to you. I'm going to skip over the screen lock pin and go ahead and say skip anyway. And there's nothing else, so we'll just go ahead and select no thanks. We are now running the latest firmware. If we go to My Apps and then select Google Play Store, we now have full access to the Google Play Store and can install Android apps, emulators, and more. Now let's talk a little bit about the emulators. If you're using the same micro SD card that you use to flash your firmware, you'll notice there's a number of different directories that were created for you during the process. The game subdirectory is one that I created, and within the game subdirectory is a subdirectory called ROMs, which is where I place all the ROMs for all the systems that I wanted to play on the X18S. If we move down to the PSP subfolder, you'll notice some of the games take up a considerable amount of storage space. You'll want to keep in mind how many and what type of games you plan to install when deciding what size micro SD card to use with the device. In the gameplay portion of this video, I will be using the standalone version of Redream for Dreamcast, Dolphin for GameCube, and PPSSPP for PlayStation Portable. All three of these are relatively easy to set up and are, or either will be, documented more fully on the guide. The application I think most may struggle with is RetroArch. This one is rather important in that it is used to primarily play most cores or emulators up to PS1. It can also be used to play many of the other systems as well. However, you'll get much better performance using the standalone emulators for Dreamcast, GameCube, and PSP. The struggles I encountered with RetroArch are now well documented on the guide, but let's touch on it briefly here as well. After installing RetroArch, I didn't have access to the ROM subfolder where I'd copied games to the microSD. I'll show you how I resolved the issue. I downloaded QuickEdit from the Google Play Store and then loaded up the RetroArch configuration file, which was located in this path right here. Once you load it up into the editor, what you want to do is go to File, Open, and then go to the disk, there it is, disk location. And notice where it says storage and this number here. That number is unique to your micro SD card. Go ahead and take that and write it down. We're going to need it for the next step. Now what you want to do is scroll down until you see this section right here, which is the RGUI browser directory equals, and yours may currently look something like this with the value of default. But instead, what you want to do is change it to this path here. Notice the yellow area with the number, and the path to your ROMs. Then from there, go ahead and save the file. So you'll tap Save to save the RetroArch configuration file. Then inside RetroArch, go to Load Core, and if we scroll all the way down to the bottom, you can see the option to download a core. All of the cores denoted with a pound symbol have already been downloaded, but it's very easy to do. Just select it, press the A button, and the core will be downloaded and installed. From there, you can simply go to the directory that you want to scan and add your games. There is a front end that you can download from the Google Play Store called Dig, and Dig makes it easier to launch and play games that you've installed. If you'd like to see a more detailed video on how to set up Dig, please comment below. All of the games that have been installed are categorized for each system. To change the core or emulator associated with the system, tap in the upper right and select Manage System. From there, go up to the very top and you can set the core or emulator for the system that you want to run, and then scroll down to whatever game it is that you want to play. And I'll go ahead and look for Asteroids, which is one of the first games that I purchased to play on my Atari 2600 back when I was a kid. And we'll do the same for the NES. And I'll go into the emulator and go ahead and select FCEU MM Core. And now we'll play a little bit of Super Mario Brothers. Now that we know how to get to our games with some basic setup information, let's take a look at some more interesting gameplay examples. For the first couple games that I show in this segment, I want to capture some footage from the mini HDMI output going in my video capture device. We'll start off with one I like to use for initial testing, and that's Donkey Kong Country on the SNES. Now we'll take it up a notch with Tekken 3 on the PS1, playing in RetroArch on the PCSX rearmed core. You win. Next, we're going to look at Mario Kart 64. Check out the FPS counter in the lower left. Now we'll take a look at a few gameplay examples running the standalone Redream emulator. I've never seen 60 frames per second on any retro handheld I own until now for the Dreamcast. Check it out in the upper left.
Attention all units. Suspect seen heading south. Block all major roads and capture the suspect.
Next, we'll check out Super Mario Sunshine running the Dolphin emulator. This game didn't perform that well with some audio issues and inconsistent frame rates. However, if I figure out how to improve the performance, I'll add it to the guide. For any games or emulators that utilize the on-screen overlay, you can press the G button to map the hardware buttons to the overlay actions. You can drag this little window around and realign the buttons as you see here. Of course, my alignment is not perfect, but anyway, that works. I'll go ahead and tap the save and hide. And now we'll check out Chains of Olympus on the PPSS-PP standalone emulator using the Vulkan driver on the PSP. I also tried a handful of native Android games that also played well, but I was very impressed with how well Google Stadia could stream games to the device. No setup was required. You're seeing some brief gameplay footage captured from the mini HDMI port.
Ladder's out, though.
No problem. I'll improvise.
Depart this barge immediately. You are not approved trash.
And trash? Just not approved trash.
Well, that brings us to the end of another video. I hope you enjoyed this look at the new Powkiddy X18S. Now let's take a look at the things that I like about this device. It is the most powerful handheld I've seen. It has a touchscreen display. Most games and emulators play very well as Stadia. Now let's talk about the things that I think can be improved. First off, it's not easy to set up, although the guide should help. There is no L3 or R3 buttons, and the D-pad is not the best. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, please click the like button. If you'd like to see more from Wagner's Tech Talk, please click the subscribe. And with that, I will talk to you very soon.